getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to tonight's presentation of Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Racing on SMB. JR Gregory here with you on the call, along with my partner Kennen Miller and our producer Racing Ron Maunz. And after a spicy opener at Summit Point, week 2 takes us to rainy northern Italy and Monza. Monza, of course, located outside of Milan, built in 1922, has hosted over 100 years of racing. It's currently host of the Italian Grand Prix since 1949, also past host to the World Endurance Championship and Grand Prix motorcycles. Today's configuration, 3.6 miles, 5.8 clicks, 11 turns, and I had to update my notes here this morning because the prior track record stood for about 20 years. It was just broken this year by Lando Norris in a McLaren F1 car. It's a 120.910. So Kennen, tonight brings us an interesting weather forecast. Last time I checked, showing about a 65% chance of precipitation. Navigating some of these slow corners and tight chicanes at Monza can be tricky on a bone dry track. So what will these drivers be facing this evening in the rain?
Yeah, the drivers are going to have their hands full, I think, today, JR. It's very interesting so far. The entire practice session has been really perfect conditions, a very dry track, and we're kind of seeing most of the normal people we expect up front to be running there. But I think the rain that is looking to be coming in, I don't see there's any way it's going to miss this racetrack. Will certainly turn a lot of the results on its head. It's a very fast racetrack, as we know here at Monza, 3.6 miles, only 11 turns. It's really highlighted by 3 very difficult chicanes, and those are very heavy braking zones. It's a great opportunity for cars to pass, and that's where we'll see a lot of the action happen. The drivers are also going to face a lot of difficulties when it comes to the slipstream. There's a backstretch that we see the 62 of, I don't know who that is in the car. Maybe that's Jacob Guyton. You see him coming through the backstretch into the Parabolica. This is a huge corner you'll see all race long, where utilizing the draft and the slipstream to get into that first chicane down into turn 1, it's going to be where all the passing happens, and we may see a pass for the lead on the last lap right there.
Yeah, too right, Kennen. And the interesting thing about the entry to these chicanes as passing zones, particularly Varianti, what is the first one? Redifio. What is, and I wish I could speak to this. I wanted to get some practice in on the rain, didn't get it done, unfortunately. But how does the rain line affect that entry into turn 1? It could be that everybody's going to be driving the inside line. The outside line could be useless due to the track being polished when it gets wet. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers navigate the wet track, where the rain lines are, and how they make adjustments. And it's a little bit cruel right now. As you can see, it's absolutely beautiful right now, 75-degree track, and everything's dry and perfect, but the dark clouds are on the horizon, and this hour of practice really not going to be that helpful to these drivers when the rain starts coming down.
Yeah, I think the fast times we're seeing right now, I want to say they're right into the 154s. Yeah, they are. David Hirsch leading in the practice right now, the 154, 107, and that is a pretty good lap time. I just don't think you're going to see anything close to it if the rain starts falling. We're expecting rain to essentially hit right at the beginning of the qualifying session. I think it's going to be important with qualifying to maybe try and go out there on slicks, see what happens. Maybe the track doesn't really soak up all that water too bad, and you can get one good hot lap on slicks, and that'll be as good as you can get. I still don't think it'll be close to a 154 by any means, and may as well throw a lot of the lap times out the table when it gets to qualifying. I was also looking at the rules, and all of the marbling will carry over, so it's kind of interesting from an engineering perspective. Knowing the rain's been coming, we've been talking about it since last week's broadcast. I'm surprised you see so many drivers out here taking the normal line and putting rubber down. It'd be really to their advantage to maybe minimize the practice time on this race course to keep it clean for qualifying in the race with the water coming.
Yeah, excellent point there, Kennen, and excellent point too about the tire choice. And you might think that it's a no-brainer. As soon as the first drops of rain start hitting your visor, it's time for treaded tires. That is absolutely not the case. We've seen a couple of races with these F4 cars, and we have seen some drivers rush in to put those treaded tires on as soon as the moisture starts to come. And it is not the fast way. Even with water on the track, full slicks are quicker than treaded tires until we start to see puddling that can actually put those tread to work, pumping the water out from underneath the tires. So I think you're right. I think the pointy end of the field, certainly, even if it's drizzling a little bit, we'll start qualifying on slicks. We do have a 15-minute qualifier, so that is long enough to put a couple laps down on slicks. And if you're not liking the way things are going, there's cars around you on treaded tires that are putting down fast laps. There's plenty of time to go in and switch those over. So we may see some of that going on today too, and super fascinating how the weather is going to impact the strategy both in qualifying and come race time. If the track isn't soaking wet when the green flag flies at the beginning, we might see some brave drivers starting off on slicks and seeing how big of a gap they can put on cars with treaded tires, because the pace difference is quite staggering even on a moist track.
Yeah, and we see Jacob Guyton there really giving quite a good swerve down the backstretch. I don't know if he was trying to put heat in the tires or maybe get a little bit of judgment of how much he can really break the draft, but I don't think he's going to get too much of a chance to break it at all. As you can see, they're all going. Maybe they're just warming up the tires a little bit, but I did have a chance to just look at the radar, and we do have a little line of weather coming from the east, and it's moving quite quickly to the track. We're expecting to see it here in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I would expect, but it doesn't look to be a very big, heavy storm. It seems like it's a very thin line. So who knows? We could see drivers possibly attempt to start this race on slicks. I think we'll certainly know by the time qualifying's finished what the condition of the track will look like, at least for the start. But there's going to be an opportunity where it could create a mess. You're going to have a slightly wet track that just isn't wet enough to take on the wet tires, and the drivers are going to really be tasked with making the car handle fine with the slicks on a slightly slippery race course.
Oh, interesting stuff. So what you're saying, it sounds like, is you're looking at the radar, there's a front coming through with clear air behind. So we may get a squall blowing through that and have the track dry during the race. And that certainly will add some more spice to this. And if you ever watched an IndyCar race at Barber, seems to happen there quite a bit. And man, oh man, that is some exciting stuff. But looks like our 15-minute qualifier is underway here. It is open qualifying, and as I said, plenty of time to play around with tires here, get a couple laps down, get heat in the tires. These tires kind of hit their sweet spot about 3 laps or so, and it can be worthwhile, Kennen, to go ahead and put down a couple, come back in, get a fresh set, and try to hit that 3-lap sweet spot on a lightened fuel load. And as you can see, folks, still nice and dry and friendly out there at Monza, even with rain on the horizon. So we may get a dry qualifying here and just have the rain blow through during the race.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I mean, even if the rain does come on the back half of the qualifying session, you're going to see all the drivers get their best times as quick as they can. They may have an opportunity to put fresh rubber on, but I would think all the teams are kind of looking at, they've got the first half to put down their lap time, because once the rain starts happening, even if you do have decent grip that you'd stay on the slick tires, you're not going to be able to quite get that grip to put yourself at the top of the pole. It's going to be real difficult, and even the drivers are finding it. This track, it's very high speed. It's a lot of straightaways. It's a lot of right-hand corners, and with that, it uses a lot of gas to get out of the corners to maintain your speed. It puts a lot of stress on the rear tires. The front tires in a Formula 4 car won't be too difficult to manage the way we see it, some of the tracks with more difficult turns, but the rear tires and how you manage carrying all that high-powered speed will certainly affect the way it goes by the end of a 20-minute race. These tires do not last very long.
No, they definitely don't, and it's not to the point where you get tire failure, but once they get heated up good and hot a couple times, they kind of slowly drop off, and they can fall off a cliff toward the end, especially if you're pushing hard down the stretch. It seems like the tire monster tends to rear its ugly head with 5 minutes or so remaining in the session. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that. But fairly long laps here. We've got drivers coming across the line on their out laps right now. So we're embarking on our first timed laps now as we see Jose Navas and that number 4 car coming through the first chicane here. And a pretty good spread of cars here. This might be a track, Kennen, where you might want to have a draft buddy out there to take turns towing down a couple of these long straights that you mentioned earlier. Not seeing that, at least with Navas right now, but we'll check up and down the field and see if any of these drivers are pairing up. And if I had a friend in this race, that's certainly something I would consider.
Yeah, I think that's something I was certainly noticing as you were speaking there. Jose Navas really kind of breaking away from the car behind him, even with the clean air and no slipstream. I believe it might be Greg Meyer behind him, who was a little bit off in practice. He did manage to put together a pretty good time by the end of it, but was pretty slow all session. And there goes a car off. It just shows how slick this track is when you touch the gravel like that. You will very easily lose a rear end because you have to use so much throttle to get out of the corners. But Novice kind of taken away. I think he's really anxious about the weather. I think he wants to know he put down a good lap time. He really gets through that chicane very nicely. That was a very smooth corner. And you see the gap he's put over Greg Meyer on this. So probably expect him to go top of the board, and maybe he'll start to fall back, look for some drafting help. I would think you'd want the drafting help to get the most speed you can to the start finish line.
Yeah, and as you said, Novice not getting a lot of help here. He has absolutely lit the wick and is gapping. I guess that's Guyton behind him about 6/10. So the first times are going to come through now off of a full tank of fuel, but a dry track. And Novice has put down a 155.6 behind him. Meyer, a 155.1. Shane Cheng will answer, breaking into the 154s. And then David Hirsch, who led practice, will answer that with a 154.2. So our first round of qualifying times coming in. And newcomer, I believe, Kennen Hirsch, not a familiar name to me, but Hirsch coming out here and showing he's a contender in what I believe might be his first appearance.
Yeah, I think Shin Chung and Hirsch are both new drivers to this week. They're obviously still very much in the championship hunt, and they've proven they've got a lot of speed. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what they can do as newcomers to the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. And it looks like Greg Meyer maybe spun around if I look at the camera right. Yeah, there you see him off in the background. Safely gets out of the way. Hopefully it didn't affect those cars' lap times. I don't think he did. But it really just shows what you have to push. The first chicane that you come through, well, the second chicane that you come through after the first flat out corner, it's so difficult. The thing is lined with bumper guards. And if you get off track, it's not so much that you're getting the off track or the cut in the track penalty, but you can do quite a bit of hopping over that with the underbody. And it's very difficult to save. You're usually going to go around every time.
Yeah, very tough. That is Variante Del Rogia. Turns 4 and 5, and in a GT3 car you're definitely getting very, very friendly with those curbs, and you can cut quite a bit there without getting it off track. These formula cars a little pickier about the big bumps. They would prefer to have all four tires nice and cozy to the asphalt, and that you may have seen Meyer caught out there in turn 5, and very, very high anti-cut curbs right there on that right-hander out of the second chicane. They call him sleeping policeman, and Meyer busted that time.
Yeah, it absolutely caught him out. That would be a situation where I think the way you overheat the rear tires like that and clearly showing it by losing control, that's an opportunity. You're just going to have to go back to pit road, try and get yourself back into the draft. I think that first time we saw a lot of the drivers going by really established some of the fastest, and there's Ryan Chia going up to third on the boards, so that's a pretty good time by him. But you're seeing he's following behind a car. There's definitely a strategy that you have to take when you run your hot lap to utilize it, and you see getting held up, locking up the brakes there, and that's going to cost you time. He'll get by, but now he's got open track in front of him, and you really, I think, need that draft to be able to get to the front. David Hirsch, he was 5th in line on that first opening stint through, and he by far got the fastest lap. So that's a very telltale sign of where you need to be in the slipstream if you want to find yourself on pole today.
Yeah, too right. Chia definitely taking advantage of the slipstream. And you mentioned Hirsch. He definitely had a big slipstream toe coming down that back straight to set that 154.2. His next lap after setting that pole lap, a 154.6. So almost a half a second off of his pole lap. So the slipstream, very important here in qualifying, as it will be during the race. We may see a little game of leapfrog coming off of this front straight and coming off of the back straight. And don't forget, folks, things look all nice and tidy and dry and comfortable here at Monza right now, but that is not going to last. By the time this event is over, we are going to see some of what we call here in the Pacific Northwest liquid sunshine. But for right now, up top, it is Hirsch from Borden, from Chia, Shane Cheng, and Adam Duvall will round out the top 5. And there's Isaac Ammon, and I talked about that turn 5, really high curb right there. You see that number 2 car getting 4 wheels off the ground right there, and these F4 cars really don't like catching that kind of air. Ammon currently sitting in P15, about good chunk of time, about 2.5 seconds off a pole.
Yeah, these cars, they just require such a stiff suspension, especially in Monza, where the name of the game is all about straight line speed. It is very heavy braking, heavy cornering, but not in the way you see it at many of the other tracks we go to on the SRG Formula 4 schedule. So it presents a lot of challenges, and part of that stiff suspension, it just doesn't really like a lot of the curves. Monza is gracious. There are some curves that are very flat and level you can kind of balance to use, but many of the difficult chicanes are really built with curves that you in a GT car you could certainly cut them very nicely, but you just aren't able to achieve that in a Formula 4 car, and you see a lot of the drivers having challenges with it. So looking at the radar, I don't think the rain's going to hit before the end of qualifying, so drivers just past halfway. We've got about 6 minutes to go. There's still a good opportunity for 4 or 5 more hot laps and really finding a way to set yourself up.
Yeah, and boy, the rain is pretty mischievous here. The way this schedule is unfolding, these drivers will have about 75 minutes of lapping here in Monza at a dry track, and then all that practice will go right out the window. The lines will change, the braking zones will change, the entries to some of these slow corners could change if the track is polished in the normal entry, creating a rain line, and we'll talk about that more later on. And looks like Vase has jumped Chia. Looks like Vase is up into P3 with a 1:54.605, edging Chia by 1 millisecond, as my partner Charles Michel likes to say. So it's searched from Borden, from Vase, from Chia, from Adam Duvall, who has put on a pretty good one. And looking up and down my timing tower, it looks like our top 8 cars right now are covered by about 1 second. So on a track as long and challenging as Monza, that is showing a pretty competitive field out here today, Kennen.
Yeah, it really is, and this is one of those tracks where the Formula 4s, they always put on a good show. The slipstream is just so important, especially once you get to the race time. You get everybody lined up on the grid. They're all in a pack. It can very much be compared to like a Daytona and a NASCAR Cup Series. It's very similar style of racing. As long as you can make sure you keep yourself in the line, then it's really going to come down to how you utilize the draft and make passes to sort of move yourself up the snake. You know, it's going to be pretty exciting. I imagine we'll see a lot of lead changes, certainly a lot of passes down through the middle of the field. And then we see Diego Posada having to take the cutoff, so that's going to disevaluate his time, and he'll have to try and get himself all reset there. So it's just really challenging. It's a lot of heavy braking. The cars aren't used to it. It's a real challenge for the Formula 4 cars, and we don't normally see that out of top tier Formula cars. The Formula 4s are a really nice challenge for a Monza circuit.
Yeah, too right, and definitely takes a lot of precision here as well to thread the needle between some of these high curves. This is a momentum car, 160 horsepower out of these normally aspirated 4 cylinders. They're fairly light, so they're still fairly quick cars, but you definitely don't want to overslow for some of these corners, especially the, for example, the Variante Ascari off of the back straight. You want to maintain as much speed as you can through there, and as I said, requires a lot of precision to thread the needle between those anti-cut curbs. So Monza really can separate the wheat from the chaff as in terms of being precise, being consistent, and hitting your marks. Absolutely critical here.
Yeah, and it's certainly, we've seen it in several different races over the past few seasons where drivers can have an issue, they can spin off, and they're able to kind of recover because they are a faster driver. They do have good lap times, and they can find themselves in last place and recover throughout the rest of the race with the lap 1 incident. Here at Monza, they're not going to be given that same kind of guarantee. If you find yourself all alone, falling back, you spin off track, and you have to get back going, the train is going to be so far gone that there's just no way you're going to run faster than a group of cars, whether it be 5 cars or 10 cars, and be able to think you'll catch them. It's gonna be very highlighted on not making mistakes. You don't want to get yourself caught making contact. You certainly don't want to find yourself spun around, and that's the only way you're really going to find yourself in victory lane today.
Yeah, and look at those intervals. This field packed really nicely together, and David Hirsch has thrown down another heater. He's almost broken into the 153s with a 154.094, and we weren't watching him that time. Not sure if he had a draft or not, but Hirsch comfortably leading qualifying after leading practice, and qualifying winding down now, about 2 minutes remaining. So probably 1 or 2 laps remaining for most of these competitors. And remember, again, if they cross start finish before our timer there hits 15:00, they will get to finish whatever lap that they're on. And we frequently do see dramatic jumps up the order with people throwing down heaters under pressure on their last untimed lap, as it were. But currently up top, it is still Hirsch from Borden, from Vase, from Ryan Chia has pushed his way back past Duval. Duval will round out the top 5. Then it's Navas, Guyton, Michael Huynh, Shane Cheng, and Diego Posada. And taking a look at Edgar Lau right now. Lau currently sitting in the lucky P17, but if he can just get 700ths out of this lap, he'll pass Trantham. Actually, if he gets about 3/10 out of it, he could jump well into the top 10. So very tight intervals there. You see all those amber colors there on our timing tower in the upper left of your screen. Those amber intervals are anything under 0.5 seconds, and a couple of yellows that you see there are between 0.5 and 1 second. So the entire field painted with sub 1 second intervals, most of it less than half a second. So these drivers came to party here at Monza.
Yeah, and Edgar Lau had a purple sector 1 and just did not quite have the opportunity to put together a good rest of the lap. It looks like didn't really improve his time at all, but very surprising. Turn 1 is sector 1 is in many ways the most difficult sector to really get through, especially with turn 1. It's such a make or break corner. So very shocking that I didn't see him improve the time. Maybe he will be able to best his time here. I believe he's on his final lap.
Yeah, and as you see that 8 car of Meyer, he did not beat the timer across start finish. So Meyer and the 28 behind of Trantham are done. But we still have a couple of cars out there getting time laps in. That is, looks like the, what are we looking at now? Is that the 63 of Albert Diaz, still not having set a time here. I see Borden is still out. Borden is 2/10 off of pole, currently sitting in P2. He has a chance to move up. Looks like Navas is still circulating, less than 1/10 behind Duval, and a 10th and 1.1 behind Chia. So Navas in a position to move up into the top 4, maybe higher, depending on what he's able to pull off here. You see the green indicators there on our sector board. That means he's set 2 personal best sectors so far. We'll ride with Navas across the line and see if he can jump up past Duval and maybe further. And you see him staying close to that pit wall and reducing the distance. And he says, JR, pay attention. That was not a time lap. Okay, well, we'll see if Borden is on one right now. Is Borden heading through Parabolica, see if he can knock David Hirsch off, and boom, there goes Edgar Lau. Edgar Lau jumps up into P3 with a 154.5, and Borden not on a time lap as he rolls into the pit. So it looks like qualifying over here for the most part, and we'll have your starting results for you here shortly. And Kennen, you've got an eye on that weather radar. How are we looking for the next 20 minutes?
Yeah, we're actually looking okay. I don't know if the weather will quite get to us. It may come in the back half of the race, but so far that line is sort of slowed down in momentum and holding off. We're expecting rain in about 10 minutes. I don't know what happens with the in-sim time between the end of qualifying and race, whether it'll add 5 minutes or so to it. So we may see it a little sooner. But I don't know how much the weather will really affect. I think you'll see all the drivers start on slick tires, and depending on what the weather really ends up doing as it comes in from the north side of the track, it'll just kind of play it by ear on what you've got for slipperiness. I think the drivers will prefer to stay on slicks if they're able to make it to the finish that way.
Wow, interesting stuff. And as you see on our weather widget there, 81% chance of rain during the event as a storm front moves in from mainland Europe down the Italian peninsula. And as Kennen said, the iRacing universe might skip forward a little bit here in between our qualifying session and race session. So cross your fingers, hold your breath. The weather for the start is going to be revealed here in a moment, as I think qualifying is over, should be over. I'm showing about 18 minutes right now, And yep, there it is. Here comes the liquid sunshine, and the track dry right now. And I'll let you know if I can determine what kind of tires these drivers are heading off on. But the track dry right now with the drizzle. So it's going to be Hirsch lined up next to David Borden on the front row. Then Edgar Lau will line up next to Sabura Vaz in 3 and 4. Then it's Chia next to Adam Duvall in row 3. Jose Navas will line up next to Jacob Guyton in row 4. Then it's Greg Meyer next to Michael Nguyen to round out the top 10. And then in 11 and 12, it is Shane Chang lining up next to Diego Posada. Then it's going to be Jason Trantham next to Rudy Samudio in 13 and 14. Isaac Amon will line up next to Ken Estep in 15 and 16. And Briette Hyde will line up next to Tyler Hagan in 17 and 18. Then it's Cy Nathan next to Albert Diaz, bringing up the rear in row 10. And be interesting to see what is going to happen here. And has the rain stopped? Was that little spit our 81% chance of rain, folks? It looks bone dry to me right now. And I am guessing, it's raining on part of the course, and it is dry here on the pit straight. And man, oh man, if you've driven at Portland, that is reminiscent. It can be soaking one part of the track and raining in others. And Ron is going to run down the field and show us some tires. It looks like, I think that was Hirsch in the yellow car on the front there with treaded tires. It looks like Edgar Lau behind him is on treaded tires as well. And Duvall is going slick. Michael Nguyen on treaded tires. So I'd kind of like to see, Ron, can you tell me who the first...
Top 3 are on wets.
Yeah, who the first car... Who's the first car on slicks? And that looks like it's going to be Vaz lined up in P4. I can see from here has slicks. The car behind him, Duvall, is on slicks. And here we go. And as you might predict, those cars on slicks getting off the line quicker. And who is that sniffing around the inside? That is Vaz taking advantage of the grip of those dry tires. And he is going to go into turn 1 in the lead as he drives away from Hirsch. Borden and Lau all on treaded tires, folks. I told you don't need them until it really starts raining, and Vaz was listening.
Yeah, he's made an absolutely fantastic strategy call. He's found himself breaking away with a pretty good lead. We see the raindrops kind of coming down in front of the camera, but the track is still considered mostly dry. I'm very shocked that a lot of the top 3 would have taken on wet tires. It just doesn't seem like the track is quite in that condition. It could be huge for Vaz. Now, on the other side of that, if the track does manage to get very wet, Vaz is stuck where he's going to have to make a pit stop. All the other cars that started on wet tires, I think their strategy is that the grip level of the racetrack is going to go down, and they're not going to have to worry about taking that pit stop. And pit stop with a 20-minute race is such a brutal amount of time lost on the track. You'll never regain it. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out by the end of the 20 minutes.
Yeah, slicks right now require commitment. So Vaz, laughing all the way to the bank right now, has gained 3 positions right off the start running those slicks. But Kennen is 100% right. It's very unlikely he's going to build enough of a gap to cover a pit stop. So Vaz and others on slicks are absolutely committed. And here's a nerd question for you. When you drive treaded tires on a dry track, you blow through those tires very, very quickly in real life. And I'm wondering, Kennen, if iRacing has accurately modeled that, because if they have, that is another potential problem for some of these drivers taking off on treaded tires. And here we go through Parabolica for the first time, and you expect drivers on slicks such as Vaz to really benefit here with a greater contact patch they're getting out of those slicks. Vaz has extended his lead to 2.3 seconds, and Chia has jumped up, and I'm not sure what kind of boots Chia is working right now. Maybe we can take a look at him to evaluate that. But Hirsch off the pole has fallen to P2. Greg Meyer has jumped up 6 positions now into P3, and you got to wonder if Meyer has slicks. There's Chia. He definitely has slicks on, and Ron, maybe we can hop back to Meyer, and there you go. 1, 2, and 3 have gained 12 positions between those 3 drivers, taking advantage of their slick tires, and are absolutely driving off. And a fascinating start. Can they hang on, Kennen, for the next 17 minutes and change?
Only time will tell. We did get a little bit of a view from the rear end of the cars as they went down the front stretch, and you could start to see a little bit of spray off there as we see Nathan off the course. He's getting back going, and I did notice Adam Duvall. He's been wrecked off the course twice on that opening lap, which is just a really brutal start. He was certainly someone we're expecting to be contending for the championship, but there is showing a little bit of that spray coming off the tires. That's still proven that the track is not wet enough that the slick tires are at a disadvantage as you see the top three running away. But it really makes me wonder, with only being just under 4 minutes into this race, how much more wet the racetrack will get. I think it's going to possibly create some problems for the top three by the end of the race. Yeah, and that was the first incident. We see Adam Duvall getting wrecked in the Vericante Ascari, and was able to get back going pretty quickly, not losing too many positions, but then having another contact there out of turn 1-2 will certainly put the icing on the cake for falling down the field.
Yeah, and help from Edgar Lau here, and we'll see that from Lau's perspective. Lau washing out a little bit there, and Duvall kind of turning in at the same time. I don't know. I was ready to give Lau a hard time for that, but might have to call that one a race incident. And you saw treaded tires on both of those cars, and our slick trio up front of Vase, Chia, and Meyer. And look at Vase versus Chia contesting that entry into turn one. Vase is going to hang on for now, but Chia looking racy. But Vase, Chia, and Meyer, and now Jose Navas is up in that group. And those drivers have dropped Hirsch. Look at that gap to Hirsch. 2 seconds, and Hirsch now 8 seconds off of P1. And this race very quickly getting away from everybody who came out on treaded tires. Folks, this track still looks fine to me. It is dry enough for slicks, and I can tell you it can get a lot wetter, and those drivers on these slicks are going to be absolutely fine. So Vase absolutely laughing all the way to the bank, taking Chia, Meyer, and Navas along with, we'll just call them the slicksters up front. And here comes Isaac Amon into P5. He has jumped 10 positions, and can't see his car right now. Oh, no, there we go. Ron's going to show Eamon's car, and slicks on that one as well. Oh my goodness. And some of these drivers, Borden, Hirsch, and other drivers who started this one on treaded tires, kicking themselves right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hate to be the bad bearer of the news to basically everybody from fifth on down, but looking at the radar, the weather system's already passed the track. So we do see a little bit of spray coming up, but the track is only going to get drier from here. So Veas, Chia, Meyer, Navas all looking like geniuses right now, checking on the weather radar. And they're certainly putting it to use as they're just running away with this. So I don't think we're going to see it really flip its course with the track getting any wetter, but the question will become, like you mentioned, how do these wet weather tires hold up on a dry track? They're going to degrade pretty quickly, I would think. I don't know if 20 minutes is too long, but it could really affect the whole back 3/4 of the field on whether they can make it to the end or whether they'll have to pit and put slicks on themselves.
Yeah, absolute madness. Hirsch has now dropped to P9, your pole sitter on those treaded tires, now getting reeled in and passed by Embriette Hyde, and that means the top 9 all on dries, your pole sitter and P2 starter. Hirsch and Borden currently running in 10 and 11. And pro tip here, kids, an 89% chance of rain means that there's an 89% chance that one drop is going to fall, not that it's going to rain for 89% of the time. We're seeing it right now. That was the rain. It is over. And much like the races of Hirsch, Borden, Trantham, Wynn, Chang, Estep, and Samudio all hating those treaded tires right now. And a very good point from Kennen. Are those treaded tires going to suffer tire failure in this 20-minute race on a dry track? They sure would in real life.
Yeah, they absolutely would. They'd fall apart in just mere laps. So it's surprising to see they've almost made it to halfway through the race. And generally speaking, we do have a decent little competition through mid-packs in the field. We see some oranges and yellows there on the timing board, but it's I think it's caught a lot of drivers out. I know the Sim Racers Group facility right now, where a lot of the drivers in this series race from out in San Jose. I am sure there's a lot of commotion going on about decisions made on what they're starting with. So very interesting. We'll have to hear from the drivers after the race, but I think the top 4, barring any kind of self spins or contacts, they've put themselves in a really good finishing position.
Yeah, and I had my eye on Embriette Hyde there. Hyde had worked her way up into P9 and was threatening to make a move to get up into P8 on her slick tires. And I think she has had a rare mistake. Hyde never drives frosty, never messes up, and has fallen back down to P16. So she's got to pick her way back through the treaded tire gang. And here's a look at Isaac Amon. He's going to run it down the inside of turn one against Hagen and makes that one stick easily, as you see that big draft on the pit straight going to work. And up front, it is Vase from Meyer, from Chia, from Navis, from Posada, not to beat a dead horse, all on dries, everybody up to P9 on dries. And pretty good fight going on right now between Vase and Meyer. And here comes Hirsch. Coming in for a tire change. He has had enough. Borden as well, and taking a moment to get fresh rubber and to kick themselves. And they will both come out not quite DFL in it. That's going to go to Ken Estep, who is also went in for a change. But your pole sitter currently sitting in P17, and Borden, your P2 starter, sitting in P19. And disastrous tire call at the beginning for those drivers.
Yeah, it's just a really tough call to make at the start of the race, but I think Hirsch and Borden, they're the first cars to decide to come take that into pit lane, and we'll have to maybe see if we can get any reports down there as to whether that pit stop was due to the tire wear or whether they think they may be able to put on slicks and regain their position through the field. It does make you wonder if there aren't a lot of other cars out there that are still on the wet tires, suffering a lot of tire failure, that they may come pit late in the race because they have no choice. And that's going to put Hirsch and, I forgot Hirsch and Borden, and see what they can kind of do by the end of it. Maybe they'll certainly regain if a lot of the field in front of them has to pit off the wet tires by the end of this race. And maybe that's what we're kind of seeing happen. They're the first movers towards it.
And here comes Vase and Meyer side by side down the pit straight. And look at Meyer with that beautiful outside move into turn one. That is the move of the day. That is the Monza merit badge to beat that inside defense into turn one, take him on the outside, beat him to the second apex. Meyer running for the border, showing how it's done, but Vase not getting up here. He's giving up. You see that draft pulling him back up, and is he going to take a peek? No, shows his nose into the second chicane there, but Meyer with an epic move to go into P1.
Yeah, really a committed move to make it on the outside. It shows just how much he wants to be in the lead. I think Vase knows as long as he can hang on to the tail, he'll get that same opportunity going into one again this coming lap, but very interesting to see Greg Meyer make that move only halfway through the race. You can see Vase decided it wasn't worth having to compete back into going into the second chicane. And we're going to probably see a lot of trading for the lead here the last half of the race. They've got themselves in a very nice spot. It's a mano-a-mano fight right now for the win. And there you see Greg Meyer taking a defensive line through the Variante Ascardi. And Meyer goes off into the gravel trap. We'll have to look if there was contact. But Vase has gone by, and even Ryan Chio go by. So Greg Meyer off the track there. And now he's kind of got resettled in. We've got quite a good race between the top four. I think any of them could win this.
Boy, and Meyer and Vase, we will show you that again. There was contact sending Meyer for a wild ride through Ascari, and Meyer may have some impure thoughts about Vase, and here it is right here. They're going to enter Ascari side by side. Meyer easily has the inside, gets a little bit of curb there, and oof! My goodness. And I'm not sure. Gosh, I might have to see that, Ron, again from the rear view. It looks like Meyer may not have given enough room for that right-hander in Ascari as they were going through there side by side. Again, I was ready to blame this one on Vase because it certainly looked dramatic, but Vase riding the curb there and Meyer squeezing him up against the curb. So that is on Meyer, and Meyer had the pace in that front group, has the fastest lap in that front group, and was ready to cash in, and that mistake gonna cost him. And here's the overhead view now. And we will watch Vase is well over the curb there, and we'll watch Meyer kind of squeeze in, not leaving room there on the inside. And that could have been worse for Meyer. The kitty litter slows him down. He gets it back on track, but that dropped him temporarily down into P4. Right now, he's back up into P3, and it is Vase from Chia, from Meyer, from Navas, really have kind of run away. And then Diego Posada, about 6 seconds off of Navas in P5.
Yeah, and you can see it's quite amazing that Vase has been able to get 1.7 seconds ahead. Chia wasn't too far behind, but it does create an opportunity if Chia, Meyer, and Navas all kind of work together, don't get themselves in too much of a fight in some of the corners, and just utilize the draft. The top four or the second through fourth could catch up to the leader pretty easily. It's all right there as you see him on the screen. That's how far the top four are separated for the lead. And even Greg Meyer, he's just got to get himself back straight in the head. He's got to calm himself down. No, he's still got an opportunity. He's just got to get himself back up to Ron Gia and be able to kind of get themselves in a position where they can make a move on Sarah Vase.
Yeah, and here Ron reading my mind zooms in on this little train. That's Diaz from Hyde, from Hirsch, from Lau, and that is all for P12. And Hyde trying to make her way back up. She had a little bit of an error earlier. And of course, Borden is right there, started in P2, went in for tires, and is desperately trying to salvage something here. He's got about 6 minutes left. He may be able to press into the top 10, but that is going to be sour grapes after qualifying in P2. But quite a fight going on right there. Hirsch kind of the cork in the bottle currently. So it's Hirsch from Lau, from Diaz, from Hyde, and that is all for P12. And we'll see what happens here down the pit straight as you see that slipstream going to work. And riding with Diaz might have stuck his nose out a little early there, not really benefiting from the draft, showing to the inside like that. And surely he's not going to go for a twofer right here. And my goodness, his crew chief right now closing his eyes, and oof, contact. Who could have seen that coming? But Hirsch is going to push through there. My goodness, that was Diaz pushing through there after a dubious dive into turn one.
Yeah, and kind of surprising there that Albert Diaz was able to make such an aggressive move. You would think David Hirsch on those slick tires would have maybe had a little better advantage. They're still quite fresh, only a few minutes in, but we're just under 5 minutes to go now, and Hirsch is still finding himself in 14th. I think he may be double knocking himself for starting on wets and then going to slicks. There's just only so much time to regain positions, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
A great fight, and Ascari right there. Duvall versus Hagen, and Duvall showing some bravery on the brakes, taking the outside line, beating Hagen to the second apex, and that slipstream going to work here. These drivers very well familiar with one another. They run in a similar part of the grid, and we see them fighting week in and week out, and we'll stay with Hagen right here. Hagen looking forward at Duvall, about a 0.2 gap. Duvall moves over against the pit wall. That shortens the distance down to turn one and breaks the draft, and Hagen apparently just enjoying the view right now, staying to the left side of the track, not going to benefit from the draft. And is he going to try the outside here and get that Monza merit badge? Oh, no, he thinks better of it. Duvall gets an awful lot of that curb on the inside. That's possible to get a slowdown there, but looks like Duvall able to stay close and not be penalized for that. And up front, look at Chia all over Vase, and Chia is eyeing his best finish of his F4 career, to my knowledge, just staying in P2, but that is not enough for him. He's only got about a 3.5 gap ahead to Vase, 3.5 minutes remaining, and Chia could have multiple opportunities here. He'll have an opportunity into Parabolica coming off the back straight, another potential opportunity coming off of the front straight into turn one, and more dicing here. That is Navas and Greg Meyer, and Greg Meyer, remember, he was looking pretty good to make a press for the lead. He has the pace until he came together with Vase and went off in the kitty litter. He's not yet recovered from that. And here's Chia. He's going to try Vase around the outside of Parabolica. Speaking of the Monza merit badge, Chia getting it done in Parabolica will lead Vase down the pit straight. Will be vulnerable to the slipstream. More action ahead in turn one.
Yeah, I think at this point we've got 3 laps to go, maybe just 2 laps to go, and you see them side by side going into turn 1 now as they're leading down the front straightaway. This is going to turn into a dogfight now. Every chicane is going to be an opportunity to pass, and I think if you're the second place car, you have no choice than to try and take it. And there goes Vase with a very clean move. That is a very clean turn 1 to regain the lead. So Chia with an absolutely incredible move through Parabolica really gives it right back to Vase, just isn't quite able to break it up, and that's kind of what we're going to see. However, when it comes to the race to the checkered line, I don't think second place will be able to get there if they're passing the Parabolica.
Yeah, tough move by Vase there. He was all the way to the right there and still managed to hold off Chia. Normally you'd maybe expect an over-under to be successful there, but Chia not done here. You see that interval under 2/10 now as they head into Lesmos. Lesmo 1 here. See Chia washing wide into the kitty litter, and that might be that. There's probably 2 laps to go here, but Chia really needed to hang tough with Vase there. He may get enough of a draft to close that interval back down, but it opened up to 0.7 with that little error out of Lesmo 1, and here goes. That is Meyer and Novice, and Meyer will try the outside, and Novice, nothing he can do there. Meyer getting a good drive out of Lesmo 2, and Meyer will go back up into P3, and man, he's got to be kicking himself for that right through the kitty litter. He was sitting pretty with a crack at P1, and right now running in P3, having to hold off Novice down the stretch. This is probably the penultimate lap right now, and Chia once again will show that he knows how to make things happen in Parabolica. Back-to-back laps, the outside pass on the penultimate, on the last corner, onto the pit straight, and Kennen, what is going to happen this time? The white flag is out. It's Chia from Vase in that battle for P1. Then it's Meyer from Novice in the battle for the final step on the podium. Chia will cover the inside. Can Vase get something done here around the outside entry to turn 1? And no, he does not get that done. And the result of that kind of sloppy entry there by Vase is Chia is able to open up that gap, currently sitting about P4. And Novice and Meyer still dicing. Meyer got a little bit of overlap there. Meyer is going to potentially have the inside line here into turn 4. Still side by side. Who is going to go for it here? Meyer. Oh, Meyer contemplating the dive there. Jose Navas slamming the door in his face. This one not over, folks, but man, oh man, some fantastic action up front here. Battles for P1 and for P3 raging lap after lap here. It is Chia from Vase, from Navas, from Meyer. Jose Posada about 4 seconds back, holding on to the final step of the P5 podium, whatever that might be. But Posada on an island right now, 3.5 seconds gap ahead, 5.5 seconds behind. And we're still watching. That is Navas and Meyer. And it appears Meyer may have just resigned himself to a P4 here. And actually that gap from Chia back to Vase has stabilized at about 0.5 second. So barring the unimaginable, Ryan Chia, his best finish, I believe, in P4, and I think his first win in F4, rather. So a fantastic drive by Chia, selects the right tires, fights like an animal for the entire 20 minutes, and pulls off the win. And what a drive by Chia, and all these drivers up front is Chia from Vase, from Navas, from Meyer, then Posada. We'll see Ammon come across in P6, followed by Duvall, Hagen, Jacob Guyton, and Edgar Lau will cross in P10. And tip of the hat to Tyler Hagen, who looks like he pulled off today's hard charger, moving up 10 positions from his P18 qualifying well into the top 10 to finish P8. And we're going to have those results for you in a second. And of course, racing still going on here as we watch Borden on a recovery drive after qualifying in P2. He's got Hyde behind him. And what is that gap looking like? It's about a second gap. So Borden probably safe with the lucky 13. And he's going to have a word with his crew chief following that tire selection, as will our pole sitter. And here is, looks like here's the pass by Borden on Hyde here into Ascari. or is that Hyde in the 90? No, that's Hyde in the 93. So Hyde had the inside position there and just kind of played it frosty and let Borden through there. But this one winding down our last couple cars, coming across, start finish. Here comes Michael Nguyen, and we'll see Estep and Chang not far behind. Looks like Samudio threw in the towel about 4 laps ago. So my goodness, that is Monza. Man, oh man, what a fantastic race. And my goodness, we'll have the final results for you here in a minute. But Kennen, what'd you think of that one?
Yeah, it's quite a thrilling finish. We had quite the battles for first and third there at the mano-a-mano type fight. I think Vaezi, I think he was trying to play conservative. We saw it with 2 laps to go that he was willing to fight back and take it going into turn 1, and he didn't really force the issue on the white flag lap. Maybe after getting burned on Parabolica, he wanted to make sure he was set up there. Unfortunately, Ryan Chia was able to kind of pull a little too far away. He wasn't able to utilize the draft on that back stretch before Parabolica, and that kind of cost him the opportunity at the victory. But I think overall, the top 4 have got to be feeling pretty good. They're the 4 drivers that made the right call on the tires. They understood the weather correctly, and they managed to get some really good points to start the season. Only 2 races in with 10 races to go. It's a really nice start to get with a top 4 position.
Yeah, really outstanding stuff. And we're going to have some of these drivers in to the booth to speak with us here after this one. But it was a barn burner at Monza, and there are your final results. Ryan Chia pulls off an epic win there and a couple of epic moves around the outside of Parabolica. That was some fantastic stuff from Chia. Then Sabura Vase in P2. Jose Navas will round out the podium in P3. Very good finish there for Navas. Always has pace, but maybe the first podium that we've seen him on at least in a while. And it's going to be Greg Meyer in P4, Diego Posada in P5. Then Isaac Amon will finish in P6, followed by Adam Duvall, Tyler Hagan, Jacob Guyton, and Edgar Lau will finish in P10. And I flew right past Hagan, and don't forget he was the hard charger up 10. But David Hirsch will finish in P11, followed by Cy Nathan. Your pole sitter was Borden the pole sitter. No, I have that wrong, but he was the P2 starter, I think. Will finish in P13. Embriette Hyde will finish in 14. Jason Trantham in 15. Albert Diaz will finish in P16. Michael Nguyen in 17. Ken Estep in P18. Shane Chang in P19. And Rudy Samudio down 5, I believe, parked it, and he will take P20. But man, oh man, fantastic stuff here. And Kennen, these F4 races, I keep saying this because it's true, get better and better and better all the time. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And I wonder, these Discord nicknames, I'm not sure who Neovra is. Sounds like maybe a modern egg of some kind. But I'll go ahead and drag this driver in. And Neovra, can you give us your real name so we know who we're speaking to?
That's Edgar. I forgot to change it.
I'm sorry, it's who?
Edgar.
Oh, it's Edgar Lau. Edgar, how's it going, man? Crazy stuff here at Monza. It looks like you finished in P10 and suffered about 7 position loss off the start. And I'm going to take out my crystal ball and guess it's because you started on treaded tires.
Yes. So I started on tread tires, but also it's my actual first race and on my own leg for the first time. So just a lot to take in and a lot to learn.
Boy, I'll tell you what, swapping rigs. I was down at SRG a couple weekends ago for the in-house 6-hour enduro, and my ego got in the way of that one because I thought I was so fast I could jump in any rig and still be fast, and changing equipment is a big deal. And so, Edgar, I will absolutely vouch for you on that. And tell us, did you ever give up on the treaded tires and take a pit stop and try to make a recovery drive, or did you run those treaded tires all the way through?
Yeah, so I made the choice because there were some other mishaps, because obviously we were so down on pace, and there's just so much carnage on the first lap that I dropped all the way back to last place. So I was like, what the hell, let me just go on select and see what I can do with the slicks, because obviously there are a couple drivers that were on slicks and they seem to be doing well, and the rain seems to be receding. And so I made the early call to go on slicks, and I was able to start making some headway back up the order.
You're going to love this interview on the broadcast. Right as you were giving that answer, our producer Ron showed a slow motion clip of you threading the needle off the start into turn one, go 3 wide there. So that was pretty sweet. Well, interesting stuff, Edgar. And so looking forward, looks like our next race is at the Hungaroring. So have you got any thoughts about that track to share with our audience today?
I've not really ran Hungaroring in these F4s. Again, I'm more of a GT person, so all this F4, I wasn't even thinking about being in the top 5 or top 10 in terms of like pace, but apparently when the pressure is on, you get to push a little bit harder, and it got me there, so a little bit more confident. But yeah, I don't know about Hungaroring in the downforce car, and unfortunately I won't be making it because I'll be doing stuff elsewhere at Laguna Seca. But yeah, it's a great track. I've driven other forms of cars on that track, and I love it. There's a lot of back and forth. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 is just S's and a lot of switchbacks where you can set people up really nicely as well. So yeah, it should be a fun race.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you're not going to be with us for Hungaroring, but it sounds like you might be doing fun race car stuff there at your local track of Laguna Seca. So as we wrap up, is there anyone you'd like to thank or give a shout out to today?
I just want to thank all the drivers, and sorry to whoever I made contact with. And, again, just give me this one chance as the newbie. We'll come back better. And thank you, Jason, for having me. And this is just a lot of fun. Sim racing has grown so big since I've gone away from sim racing, and it's just fun to be back.
All right. Well, Edgar, thanks for coming by and chatting with us, and welcome to Sim Racers Group. We have been having a blast with this group, and I'm sure you will as well. So we'll see you next time you're on track, and have a good time at Laguna Seca next weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. That was Edgar Lau. And I'll tell you what, Kennen, let's go ahead. And for you, we will bring in David Borden, who looks like he was another victim of the treaded tires and finished in P13.
Yeah, David Borden started second on the grid today, ended up with a tough 13th place position. We obviously saw that he started on the wet tires, kind of saw a little bit of a rainstorm come in. It turned out to be not too much. How do you feel on that strategy call, and how the race went overall after you got onto slicks?
Well, clearly it was the wrong choice. It gives you an appreciation for the real thing. There's a lot more to it than just turning fast laps.
Yeah, it certainly obviously had you hesitant there. I know all the practice and the qualifying ended up being dry sessions, and then you sort of get spurred with the rain coming on. Do you feel like it was last second call to have to go to the wets, or were you kind of keeping an eye through qualifying, knowing it was coming and ready to make a decision, just didn't quite work out?
Yeah, it was, I had practiced in the wet and the dry. I felt that I was, ready, at least reasonably well practiced for either scenario, but I did not have the knowledge to pick the correct tires. We had a little bit of a update from some of the guys after the race. I wish I would have had it earlier, but as far as which kind of what to look for in that kind of stuff, I was certain I was on the right tires, clearly through ignorance, but it was fun nonetheless.
Yeah, it was surprising looking at the radar. It was just a single line that kind of moved in. It really took its time getting to the track, and then it seemed like once it got to the track, it passed by a lot quicker than even we were expecting up here in the booth. It seemed like it was the kind of storm that would have taken a full 20 minutes to pass and ended up going through much quicker. But I know we've got the Hungaroring coming up next week and all. Are you very familiar with the track? What do you expect to see with how you're going to move into next week?
I'm going to have to do a fair bit of practice because I'm not familiar with the track.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that one either, but I know based on what I've heard through the paddock, a lot of drivers say it's quite a good track. It's certainly a driver's track, and I think it's going to be a good week for you to get a good rebound after today's P13 finish. But before we let you go here today, anybody you want to thank, give a shout out to a sponsor, anybody before we let you go?
No, I just, I'm new to this group and I'm having a great time. Jason, who runs it, is a great guy. He runs a nice, tight show, so I'm looking forward to many races with him. Just wish I could turn those laps into some top places here, but I'm sure it'll come in time.
All in time. We see it all the time with the Formula 4 Series. Drivers slowly creep their way to the front, and the next thing you know, they're gone into the F3 Series because they've gotten so fast. So unfortunate for the finish today with such a good qualifying run, David, but we look forward to seeing you recover next week in Hungaroring.
Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it. We really enjoy watching your guys' broadcast.
Thank you.
All right, that was David Borden with a little tire selection error up front and costing him 11 positions. But, this is a developmental league, Kennen. You live and you learn, and none of these drivers who got smoked off of the start by being on their own tires are going to forget that one. But let's go ahead now and bring in Ken Estep. Ken, very kind of wet and, well, maybe drier than expected, but a wild race at Monza. So how did this one unfold from your seat?
From my seat, definitely much drier than expected. I spent most of my practice in the rain and being slow, so starting on the wet tires was good for the start, but then I had to pit, and then I found the new UI got me because I couldn't switch to the dry compound, which is what I got to do when you saw me pull over between 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's a lot of curveballs in this one, and for those of you who don't use iRacing, it is a piece of software. Of course, there is a user interface that just underwent its first major changes since I've been using the service in about 10 years, and that was another unexpected curveball. Probably you weren't alone in that, Ken, but a very good track coming up next week. I'm a GT3 driver, and I don't really like Hungaroring in GT3s, but it is awesome in these Formula cars. And are you looking forward to throwing down some hot ones out there in Hungary?
Absolutely. I've been a GT3 up until this season with SRG, so I would agree. I'm looking forward to giving this car another crack, it's on another track. So yes, it's fun.
All right, outstanding. Well, Ken, we really appreciate you taking the time to stop in and share your race experience today at Monza. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you'd like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Absolutely. The gang at SRG, yourselves for the broadcast, to the drivers for their politeness and understanding my lack of skill. So it's all good. No, I appreciate everybody's time, and I say keep doing what you do. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, well, it's a great, friendly, supportive group, and everybody helping each other get better, and that's the purpose of a developmental league, and Sim Racers Group doing an outstanding job getting that done. So thanks again, Kenneth, for stopping by, and we'll see you next week in Hungary.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, you bet. Take care. All right. Well, that is going to conclude our race coverage tonight. But we are not just about these fantastic F4 cars here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Tomorrow night, the brand new Extreme Motorsports Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge kicks off at Sebring, and we'll be back here also tomorrow night for more Sim Racers Group Formula 3 competition at the brand new Aerodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. And on Sunday, we'll have a Weekend Warriors double header featuring Formula Fords at Sebring and Spec Racer Fords at Road Atlanta. And on top of that, Cross Series League Racing returns with a brawl at Talladega. And don't forget, next Tuesday, join us back here for more F4 action at the Hungaroring. I promise that one is going to be fantastic. So I am JR Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Kennen Miller, our producer, Racing Ron Maunz, and everyone here at SMB, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are, and look at the bright side. At least it ain't Monday.